attracting and finding right woman who has the ability to enter into your masculine frame, thus cultivating genuine burning desire and maintain long-term relationship. And this is the definition that I have found since studying about man and woman relationship intersexual dynamics. I've been studying intersexual dynamics for over 10 years now, from 2015 when I was a high schooler, and I was desperate to learn what the hell is going on within the man and woman relationship because my heart was broken. And when my heart was broken, I had needed to find an answer. You just need a correct guidance. You need a correct guidance to have and maintain the long-term satisfying relationship that you truly desire. And the sex is not the most important part here when it comes to long-term relationship. The money is not the most important thing. The muscles, the looks is not the most important thing. The status, anything that is on the physical level is not the most important thing when it comes to long-term relationship. So therefore, I'm going to teach you why the hell people are failing at their long-term relationships and how you can actually achieve the long-term relationships that you truly desire. So let's get into it. So here's the first question that we need to answer. Why did people in the past have long-term relationships? Why is that? And why in modern times people are not able to have a long-term relationships? That kind of made my mind boggle when I found this out, and I got red pilled. So the first reason why people had a long-term relationship in the past is because lack of technology. So what do I mean by lack of technology? Back in the day, they didn't have any social media. They didn't have mobile phones, they didn't have phones, they didn't have a communication where they can actually reach out to people that are thousand miles away from you. So people were gathered together within their own community, like maximum 100 to 120 people, okay? So people, when they had the lack of technology, they had to be in the community, and within the community, they were able to find their partners, and they were able to settle down, and they didn't need to find any better options. And I'll tell you this, woman has something called hypergamy. What does this mean? Hypergamy used to mean a term for a woman having the tendency to marry up the social hierarchy. Woman wanted to marry some men that had a higher social hierarchy than them, so therefore they call this hypergamous instinct. And now we call this hypergamous instinct as in terms of men having better qualities and being better than them. So therefore, they're emotionally better, they're logically better, there's in terms of status, they're better, in terms of their height, they're better, they're higher, everything has to be better. So women, when they want to mate and date with a man, they want to find a person that is much better than them. Woman wants to find a better man than them. Okay, this is the important thing. When there was a lack of technology, the hypergamy was not able to become a global hypergamy because they don't have an access to mobile phones. They had to compare the men within this community, within 100 to 120 people. So that's why the average dudes, okay, I wrote this wrong. Average dude within their community was able to lock down a woman because she had no comparison. She had no global comparison. Here's the second point. Social pressure. So here's the social pressure, right? We used to have this social pressure where if a woman gets 30 and has no child and has no husband, they used to shame her. They used to call them, expired or something in terms of that, right? In Japan, they also have this kind of a shaming culture. I'm not saying that shaming woman is good or bad, but they had the social pressure, the social structure, which allowed a woman to marry early on and have kids when they're in their early 20s. So therefore, my parents also had my sister and my brother when they were in their 20s. They had the social pressure that allowed them to have kids early on. So lack of technology and social pressure. Here's the third reason. Feminism. Rise of the feminism allowed women to be equal to a man. This is very important. Equal to a man. And from this feminism, we can see that there is a egalitarian equalism. I'm horrible at writing. Sorry about that. The egalitarian equalism means that the only difference between man and woman is their biological differences. There is no such thing as, man and woman thinking differently, man and woman behaving differently. The only difference is their penis and their vagina, and that's it. But this egalitarian equalism is a complete lie. I'll tell you this once again. This egalitarian equalism is a complete lie. Feminism rose based on the fact that women wanted their rights, but it also has a root in this egalitarian equalism. And this egalitarian equalism lie made us so that we think that man and woman are equal. What happened after that? When we had the egalitarian equalism installed in our mindset, woman began to think like a man and man began to think like a woman. And that created a massive problem. What I'm trying to say here is, why did people in the past have long-term relationships? Because there was no feminism back then. There was no feminism, or there was a feminism, but they didn't have the enough power to override people's ideologies back then. Or it didn't have the power to override the social pressure back then. It didn't override the lack of technology, because this feminism has been widely spreading because of this technology. Mainly, it's because of the technology. So, now I want to get to the second point. Why is long-term relationship in modern times so hard? Okay. Why is long-term relationship? Okay, is this recording? Okay. Why is this long-term relationship so hard in modern times? I just told you, it's because of these three reasons. It's because of the ideological reason, ideology, feminism. Second is no social pressure. And third, technology. This ideology, no social pressure, technology made us so that we cannot have no longer long-term relationship. What I mean by that is average man cannot have long-term relationship unless they do something about it. Let that sink in. This led so that the average men are completely fucked. Average men are completely fucked because of these three reasons: ideology, no social pressure, and because of the technology. So here's the ideology part, right? So here's the ideological power. Ideological power. And here's the structural power. Ideological and the structural power. So this is the highest power that we can actually have within our lives, because this ideological power is able to manipulate people even after a person dies. What I mean by that is the person who created one ideology can maintain their ideology for thousands of years if it's convincing enough. As you can see, there are religious people, there are cults that are going thousands of years that they truly believe in, and they cannot give up on that belief because the ideological power is the highest power, the form of power that there is. And the structural power is the culture itself and how the society behaves towards them and how they behave towards society. It's the social contract. These two are against you as a man. Because we have ideology and structure against you, the only way to cultivate the long-term relationship and satisfying relationship within your life as a man is to become a ideological leader. That's the only way. You need to become the ideological leader. That's why the people that are in this physical realm needs to actually find out that there is a higher planes of our existence, which means that there is not only a physical realm of 0.0035% that we can see, but there is also a mental plane and there's a spiritual plane that we have within our existence. So you need to become the ideological leader for a woman to able to overcome the feminism. You need to have a higher purpose and higher mission and higher ideology, stronger ideology, yes, there's the word, stronger ideology than the feminism itself, so that a woman can actually follow you instead of the feminism. Because most of the women that are watching the social media, they're actually connected to this feminism hive mind, feminism ideology, and they cannot escape from them. You need to understand how their brain works, how they're wired. They're wired as the followers, and the mainstream media is pushing this feminism so that it inherently, it looks like it empowers women, but it actually decreases their power. You need to become an ideological leader. Ideological leader, what I mean by that is you need to have the strong masculine frame. You need to have a strong masculine frame to become the ideological leader. And second point is that there is no social pressure. What I recommend you doing is, you as a man, you need to establish the structure of a long-term relationship within your relationship. This means You need to have a strong standards and strong moral standards and what you accept and don't accept within your relationship so that your relationship becomes stable. Before in the past, we used to have a social pressure which allowed you to have a family, even though you don't need to say it out loud. You don't need to say out loud the standards and the morals. They accept it as normal when it comes to wife being at the house and man going outside and working. You didn't need to say it out loud of these standards because people already have accepted them. But in today's modern day, you need to find out what kind of structure you want to have within your relationship so that you can have a correct long-term relationship. And the third, technology. Technology gave woman called choice paradox. Choice paradox. So, what is a choice paradox? Choice paradox means that in front of a human, if there is more than 3 or 4 choices, human brain has a hard time choosing one. And what that means is if they have 20 or 30 choices of similar value, then human has a very hard time choosing one product. So, technology allowed women to have thousands of choices of men. Thousands of men, within their perception, they have 10,000 plus men within their DMs, or they can have an access to. So, before, women used to live within the community of maximum 100 to 200 people, and they didn't have that choice paradox because there were not a lot of men to choose from. But because of the technology, now they can choose perceptually, choose from global sexual marketplace. That's why we call it global sexual marketplace. Red pillars and those relationship gurus, they say sexual marketplace. We call it global sexual marketplace because of the technology. So these are the 3 reasons why long-term relationship is very, very hard within the modern times. So how do we solve this? How do we solve this issue? So I already told you about becoming the ideological leader. And this too. Making a structure within your relationship. Structure within relationship. And third, we need to understand how we attract and find woman. This ideological leader and structure within the relationship and attract and find woman, these are the main 3 things that you need to know to be able to have a long-term relationship. So let's go through the ideological leader first. So ideological leader is a person that has a purpose, has a mission, and has a direction. Masculine frame. This masculine frame consists of beliefs and attention and his identity and his thoughts that are emotionally charged and emotional conviction and expectations that he has and the perception towards life and the responses and the daily reactions that he does within his life. So these are the 8 points of masculine frame that I'll teach with in the future videos. But here's the simplified version. Here's the belief. Belief plus identity. So ideology, to able to, become the part of ideology, what do? We need to believe it. And how do we believe it? We just need to believe it. Just say, I believe it. This man that has a masculine frame has a stronger belief than her. This guy that has a stronger belief than her never folds his belief. How do we know that that man has a stronger belief than her? How do we know that? Woman typically does something called shit tests. Shit tests. Shit tests. Shit tests means basically she wants to know if you are a strong man that has a masculine frame in which a woman wants to enter into. So the main point of shit test is if she is able to sway your beliefs, if she dangles her sexuality in front of you and you fold in front of her because she didn't want to give you sex, then how the fuck can you have a stronger belief than her? This is the masculine frame. It comes from the belief. And what kind of beliefs should you have as a man that wants to have the masculine frame? You need to have a strong belief that feminism is complete lie. It is not woman's empowerment. It is not. It is not there to empower women. Feminism is not empower. It is not there to empower women. Feminism is a lie, complete lie. The second belief that you have to install and never ever fold is we are not equal. Man and woman, we are not equal, and that's it. Dot. At the end. We are not equal. These two beliefs are the main beliefs that you need to have in order to have a stronger belief than her. And no matter how much shit test she gives you, you should never ever fold your beliefs. Second, this is the identity of a man. What does identity mean? Identity means, who do I think I am? Who do I proclaim as? Who am I? In Exodus in the Bible, there's a God's name. I am. I am. I am is the God's name that is written within a Bible, within Exodus. So when you say I am a man, you're basically using a God's word, God's identity, to be able to proclaim that you are a man. If you have a belief that we are equals, that means that you cannot even establish the word I am a man. So therefore, you need to proclaim first to have the identity of a strong man. Strong man. Proclaiming himself as a strong man and proclaiming yourself, as a person that has a strong masculine frame in which a woman can enter into, itself will make you strong within the identity and within your belief. And this is how you become the ideological leader. No matter what the fuck woman says about you being like a misogynist, or, just because we're not equal, that means that women should not have rights. No. Like, women always shit test. They will always shit test until the end. And you should never fold your belief and your identity. Never. Structure within the relationship. So, this structure is very, very important, because while you're having a relationship with your girlfriend or your spouse or your wife, you need to establish the structure within your relationship. You need to become a leader of your relationship with a strong frame, and you need to establish standards, morals, direction, and mission. Standards, morals, direction, and mission. You need to establish these four structure within your relationship. If you don't establish the standards, for example, like, very simple standard. You go out once a week on a date with her. This is your standards. You cannot ever change it unless you want to. She cannot change her standards. You have to accept that you want to change your standards to able to change your standards. It's not because of the external things. It's not because she told you to change your standards, that's why you're changing your standards. No, I'm not talking about that. You're changing your standards because you wanted to. It was your choice. It must be structure from you, and you must be the only source. Morals. What is good and bad? You have to establish it. The thing about the universe is, universe inherently does not have a quality of good and bad. Universe just is. There is no such thing as good or bad if you get to the higher planes of existence. But within the lower planes of existence, within our physical realm, you have a obligation to establish what is good and bad to be able to navigate this world. Third, direction. What kind of direction? This direction and mission is very interlinked. Direction and mission, you need to know where the fuck you're going. Like, you really need to know. If you don't know which direction you're going to, then how the hell are you going to have a satisfying long-term relationship? Like, how are you going to have a good relationship if you do not have any direction or mission? Like, please tell me. Like, you can't have that. You just can't. Okay? Attract and find woman. I'll just delete this and then write it over again. By the way, if you're an executive, entrepreneur, or a high-performing man who is struggling to find a long-term relationship in terms of finding wife material or navigating within the sexual marketplace, you can have a help from me. Work with me one-on-one. Link in the description. Attracting and finding woman. So what I mean by that? What do I mean by this? So the first thing that you need to understand is, here is the pool of men. Okay? Here's the pool of men. By the Pareto principle, we can see that there is a 80-20 rule. So 80% and 20% of men. Within this Pareto principle, 80% of the men, okay, I'll write down, of men is basically invisible. They are basically invisible. those people who bring you, postcards, those people who bring, those people who are working as a taxi driver, those people who are driving buses for you, those people who are working as construction workers, they're basically invisible within women's eyes. Like, that's the harsh truth that we need to accept. But this acceptance is the first point to able to become the leader of our lives. 20% of the people, they are the men that has the possibility to have date with woman. They have the possibility. This doesn't mean that they are going to have success within the dating life. They just have the possibility to date with them because women are able to have the interest within them if they are having some sort of exceptional qualities, such as looks, money, status, and game. Those people who are in these 20%, they have one of the exceptional qualities, such as they have looks, they have money, they have status, or they have game. What do I mean by looks? They are naturally good looking. They have good genetics, or they have muscles. Most of the people, they're not born with exceptional genes. What do I mean by exceptional genes? 4.5 percenters. Within the Tinder statistics says only 1 out of 20 people they were able to swipe right. And this is the statistics. 4.5% of the people, they have the exceptional looks. But if you are able to build your muscle, women love it. Woman loves that. Within the money is able to attract women because it is able to provide provisioning and investment within their lives, providing security for future family and future investments. So money is for the provisioning side. The long-term side. So when I talk about long-term relationships, money is just a beginning of long-term relationship, but there is more to this. Status. When I talk about status, is if other woman wants you. This is very interesting. Status, I don't mean by status like objective status that you have some title. What I mean by status is when other woman sees you with other woman, that is the indication of status within woman's eyes. It is not about title. It is about woman's perception towards you. When you're with other woman that wants you, then woman perceives you as high value and high status. And this is one of the qualities that 20%ers have. And lastly, game. This game is, there are a lot of definitions on game, but what I define as game is the ability to attract women with words and behaviors. Yeah. And words and behaviors are predicative and like the words and behaviors comes from their identity and their frame and all the stuff, but a lot of pickup artists don't teach about masculine frame. That's why the people that actually learn about the game and the pickup artistry has a hard time having long-term relationships within their lives. So even the best pickup artists, even though they had a lot of women sleeping with them, they didn't and they couldn't have long-term relationship, and they couldn't maintain the long-term relationship because they didn't have the masculine frame. Masculine frame is the highest importance when it comes to a long-term relationship. So, game just means the ability to seduce women and have sex with her. Let's write that down. Seduce and sex. Seduce and sex. The 20%ers, they're able to go to dates. They're able to have fun dates. They are able to have deep connections with women. And the breaking point of relationship is when a man and woman have sex. So sex is the breaking point when it comes to relationship, because sex is the starting point of woman being able to emotionally invest in you. That's very important. The point of emotional investment. And of course, I'm not saying that there aren't women that are able to have sex without any emotional investment. But what I'm trying to say is, average woman that you're trying to find and you're dating with, they're not like whores, or they're not women that are sleeping around a lot. Okay, they're not the people that we're talking about. We're not talking about the specific kind of woman that are able to have sex without emotional investment. What I'm trying to say is, when they have sex, when average women have sex with a man, they are basically saying that I am willing to emotionally invest within you. That's the starting point. So the women that are not able to have sex with the emotional investment, they are damaged. And you shouldn't even want a long-term relationship with them. So that's why you wouldn't want to have a long-term relationship with prostitutes, because they're able to separate the emotional investment with sex. And you don't want to have long-term relationship with them. Also, escorts, don't have any long-term relationship with them, because they're able to separate sex from emotional investment. But average woman, they are having sex with emotional investment in one package. So remember that. When 20%ers are able to have sex, why does this not lead to long-term relationship? Why is that? The reason why they cannot have a long-term relationship is because they're only seeing through their own physical eyes, not the mental eyes. Let me explain this. So within our reality, we have something called multiple planes of our existence. We have spiritual plane, mental plane, and physical plane. And I'll just do it as simplified version. Plane can be interchanged with the word level. We have a mental level, and physical level. We have a mental and physical level. Physical level is 0.0035% of electromagnetic spectrum that you can see with our visible eyes. Like, this is the realm of an illusion that we can see. And mental level is the 99.9965% of reality that we cannot see with our physical eyes. But we can absolutely see with our mental eyes when we are able to open our spiritual eyes, mental eyes. And wow, now I'll explain why people are failing at long-term relationship. The reason why men are failing at long-term relationship is because they're focusing on the physical level of looks, money, status, and gain within the realm of physical level. You are only using the power of 0.0035% to able to attract a woman, and you're able to have physical sex, but you're not able to cultivate long-term relationship because you're not using the mental level. And I already told you about the ideological leader. To able to become an ideological leader, you need to have this mental level of awareness. This mental level of awareness, this is where the masculine frame lies. Masculine frame. And this is where we can actually see the masculine frame. So, as I already told you, beliefs, attention, identity, thoughts that are emotionally charged, emotional conviction, and expectations, and perception, and reactions that you have towards life. These are the things of masculine frame. The mental level is the utmost important, the highest importance of long-term relationship. So this is the reason why most people fail, because they mostly focus on the physical level. And the mental level is the masculine frame in which a woman can enter into. That's what you have to cultivate. So now, before we talk about masculine frame and the frame itself, we need to exactly know what the masculinity is. Masculinity and femininity. In the book of Hermetic philosophy, Kybalion, there is a fourth Hermetic principle. It's called the principle of polarity. And there is a seventh Hermetic principle, and it is called principle of gender. And these two laws, two principles, are the principles that we will focus on right now. The polarity means that everything has duality, which means there's a femininity, masculinity, there is hot and cold, there is high and low, and there is, floor and roof. They're the polarity, right? So everything in this world, it has a polarity. And because of this polarity, the seventh principle of gender occurs. And this gender means that everything has gender, masculine and feminine principle. What that means is that on every plane of our existence, on every level of our existence, spiritual, mental, and physical level, there is a masculine principle and there is a feminine principle. There's a masculine and feminine. So the masculinity is the one who affects femininity. And so that means that this is the starting point of occurrence, and this has an effect on femininity, and femininity is the womb. It's like a womb. So what that means is, on the physical level, again, on the physical, on the physical, we have a man and woman. We have man and woman. Man and woman, we have a physical sex, and they create a physical child. Why am I spelling this? Physical child. Man has a sperm that enters into woman's vagina and creates a child, and this is called physical child. On the mental plane, we have something called masculinity, and femininity. And when they are combined with each other on the masculine frame within the mental level, they create a mental child. As within, as without, as above, so below. The principle of correspondence. The mental child, this is the child that needs to be cultivated and fed just like a physical child, and this is called long-term relationship. This mental child is called long-term relationship. So what I'm trying to convey to you is that the people that are focusing on the looks, money, status, and game, they're only focusing on the physical level of 0.0035% of this reality, thinking that when a man has sex with a woman, they have a physical child and that's it. But the thing is, there is also a mental level that they need to also concentrate so that they can cultivate their masculine frame, so that the masculinity combined with femininity that the woman has to able to create a long-term relationship called mental child. And that is the highest importance of today's topic. And this is the thing that you need to understand. And if you do not understand this, your long-term relationship will eventually fall. So the most important thing I've told you is the masculinity and femininity, the combination of both. So here's the one interesting question that I've also tried to answer to myself. Why can't a woman have masculinity and men have femininity? And this is actually the base of feminism. This is the base of egalitarian equalism, that woman can have a masculine mental masculinity and men can have a mental femininity to able to have a harmonious relationship, just like woman by herself being perfect or man being by himself perfect. This cannot exist. Why is that? Why is that? Why can't this exist? Because woman has a biological programming. Biology. She has a programming called hypergamy. I already told you about this. If a woman has a masculine mentality, if she becomes masculine, that means that because due to her biological programming called hypergamy to able to find a better man than her, she will want to find a more masculine man than her. Like, seriously, try to think about this. There are some memes on internet, on Instagram, where you can see where woman is a strong, independent woman at work, and comes back home and wants to become her true self or wants to become a feminine woman again. You know, the woman in modern times, you need to understand and have some empathy towards them or sympathy towards them. Because women are lost in terms of this ideological war called feminism and all these other ideologies, but women, they are chaotic within their minds because they don't know what to do. They're told that they need to become independent women, but at the same time their biology is telling them to find a better man. And when the hypergamy is telling them to find a better man, when they have a masculinity, they want to try to find a much more masculine man. But the thing is, when a man is highly masculine, he wants to find his complement. He wants to find the total opposite. And this is the one thing that you need to know. the opposites attract, just like a magnet. I listen to K-pop, and I dance K-pop also, and there is a song called "Magnetic" from Islet, and they have a lyrics like "You're like a magnetic, you're N, I'm an S, we attract each other." You know, opposites attract. Opposites attract. Opposites attract. And this is very, very important. When opposites attract, when man is masculine, he wants to find a feminine woman. And I already gave you the reason why woman cannot have masculinity and man cannot have femininity. Is because woman has this biological programming called hypergamy. This is not an ideal world, but it is what it is. We need to accept this fact. Masculine frame. I already told you about beliefs, attention. I'll write that down. Okay. Shout out to Neuro Knowledge. He helped me out with this, and thank you very much. Beliefs, attention, identity, thoughts that are emotionally charged, emotional conviction, expectation, perception, and responses. These are the 8 things that I've written. It's called BTPR. I call that BTPR. And the thing is, this is the masculine frame. This is the recipe of the masculine frame. Beliefs. What kind of beliefs does masculine man have? He has a radical responsibility. Radical responsibility. He accepts that everything that happens for a reason, and chance is just a name for a law not yet defined, and he takes radical responsibility for every situations that happens to him, and that makes him masculine, and that makes him the leader. He has beliefs that he is going to go through hardships no matter what, and go through hardships no matter what, and he is able to overcome no matter what. He has that strong conviction and belief. He has that conviction. Attention. What does attention mean? Attention means that where he concentrates. So when the masculine man, the man that has a masculine frame, where would he concentrate on? What kind of woman would he concentrate on? Would he focus on the OnlyFans bimbos? OnlyFans idiots? Or OnlyFans, I don't know, sorry, not only OnlyFans, but will he concentrate on the low quality woman? Low quality? Quality? Or would he focus on the high quality woman? What would the man that has a masculine frame would focus on? Would he focus on the low quality woman, or would he focus on the high quality wife material woman? That is a very interesting question that you need to answer yourself. Third, identity. I already told you about the I am principle. I am. I am is the name of God that proclaims who he is. I am a man. And that's it. That's very, very simple, but almost no man has this conviction and says this sentence out loud. I am a man. I am a man that has a strong masculine frame, which a woman can enter into, and it will never waver. It will never shake. You need to proclaim this today. I am. What is your identity? And identity will shape your behaviors and will change your behaviors. I had this situation where I was watching some ritual contents and I tried to find what does being a man mean. He told me that some other pickup artists told me that there is something called polarity, and you need to cultivate that polarity within your relationship, masculine and feminine. And when I began to proclaim myself as a man, everything changed. My behaviors changed, my eye contacts with a woman changed, like everything changed. So I really recommend you to have this identity as a man and firmly hold on to this. Thoughts that are emotionally charged. This is a very interesting one because neuroKnowledge talked about this very deeply, and I will talk about this very shortly in this video. Thoughts that are emotionally charged. So the thoughts is the masculine principle and emotion is the feminine principle. Well, you don't need to understand this right now, but it is good to know. Thoughts that are emotionally charged. But everything that is within this reality, they are thoughts that are emotionally charged. What do I mean by that? Everything that we have within our mental world becomes the physical world when it's emotionally charged and when it's acted upon. So, mental realm is the causal realm, and physical realm is the effect. Cause and effect, the sixth principle of Hermetic philosophy. The principle of cause and effect. Physical realm is the realm of the effect, and mental realm is the realm of the cause. When something is caused within this place, it takes effect within the physical realm. So, whenever we have the thoughts, for example, we have a thought of these women are just so weird and they're just all bitches, and when you say bitches, it's emotionally charged. When it's emotionally charged, your subconscious accepts that as true, because only truth that exists within our reality is when a subconscious mind accepts it. Only truth that exists in this world is the truth that subconscious mind accepts. Therefore, whenever you have the thoughts that are emotionally charged, it has an extreme high probability that will materialize within your world. So that's why you need to be extremely aware of what your thoughts are, what your daily thoughts are. So mental is the causal realm and physical is the effect. I can also give you an example of Steve Jobs. Before he was able to create an iPhone, he had iPhone within his mind, within the mental realm. It was the causal realm. It was the first point. And then in the physical realm, it took an effect because he was able to persist within his thoughts and he emotionally charged enough to able to manifest within our reality. So here's the emotional conviction. This is a very next step process, which means that emotional conviction means that you know that it's going to happen and you know something. For example, if I try to turn off the lights, then I don't need to believe that I'm going to turn off the lights. I just need to know. I just know that it's going to turn off the lights. That's why I flick it and it just turns off. And this emotional conviction means that when you know something and it's emotionally charged, it has extreme high probability of manifesting. This is a very interlinked. it's interlinked. Thoughts that are emotionally charged and emotional conviction. These are two almost the same thing. And expectation, very similar to this. But I'm wording it differently, of course. And expectation means that what do you expect from a woman whenever you start a relationship? When you start a relationship, what do you expect? Do you expect that things are going to go bad? Or do you expect that a woman is going to behave in such and such a way while you're dating with her? I used to have this expectation where women are going to be rude at me, and they actually became rude. Expectation is what you are going to receive. It's the boundary of what you're going to receive. When you expect something to happen, your behaviors, you're just opening your arms to receive it. If you're going to expect that woman is going to be rude at you and you're opening your arms like that, then how the hell women are not going to be rude at you? Like, explain me about this. So perception towards woman, and also perception towards yourself. Perception towards woman, for example, you have a bad perception because you had one extreme emotional experience in your past, and you really didn't like what happened within your past, and you're like, oh, those bitches, oh, bitches be lying, or your woman cheated on you before. When your woman cheated on you, you're like, oh my god, why did this happen to me? Oh my god, this is just so bad. I don't want to live this anymore. And then you have this negative perception towards women, and when you have that negative perception towards women, how the hell can you expect different outcome? Mental is the causal realm, physical is the effect. When you have these mental realm not aligned with your desired outcome of long-term relationship, then you'll not be able to have long-term relationship. And this is the masculine frame. So the responses, the masculine frame, within the masculine frame, masculine men will not have a reactive position, emotional reactiveness. Whenever something happens within your life as a man, you're going to meet a lot of bullshit situation. And I'm not saying that they're not going to be a good situation, but man has the burden of performance to go towards nature, destroy, and then build. You need to negotiate, you need to prospect, you need to exchange money, and you need to sign papers, etc., etc. When you have those bullshit situations, how are you going to respond? Are you going to respond with emotional reaction of anger? Are you going to react with emotional reaction of stress? You can have an anger first time, but you can absolutely control what comes after. The masculine man will have some situations where his emotions can go up and down, but he regulates himself immediately. Regulates his emotions. He regulates his emotions. This is how he responds. Nonchalant. You've seen how nonchalant men is very attractive. It's because they regulate their emotions. And regulation of emotion is the masculine polarity. And emotional reaction is the feminine polarity. So that's why I already told you, opposites attract. When woman is reactive and man is non-reactive, then they attract each other. Here's one question that you need to answer. How do I attract? How do I attract? How do I attract woman? And why am I attracting wrong type of woman also? And this is a very important question that you need to ask. Are you attracting women because you want to? Are these women like around you because you wanted them there to be there? Or you had no choice but to just accept them? How do I attract? You've been attracting women unconsciously. Unconsciously, subconsciously. Unconsciously, what I mean by that is subconscious mind, conscious mind. Subconscious mind has been attracting the type of woman that you want unconsciously for your entire life, and you didn't even notice. Subconscious mind is the 90% to 95% of your mind. And your conscious mind is 10 to 5% of your mind. What that means is 90% to 95% of your mind basically means that you have been attracting women that you didn't even know that you were attracting. You didn't even know that you were attracting them. You just didn't know. Your conscious mind thinks that, oh, I have some, I want to find a certain kind of woman. You can also say that, but conscious mind is just only 10% to 5%. Your subconscious mind is 90 to 95%. Like, think about it. Subconscious mind is 90 to 95%. Let that sink in. Subconscious mind attracts by its programming. By its programming means, how do we program it? How do we program it? The language of subconscious mind is an emotion. If you think about it, if your subconscious mind attracts 90 to 95% of your dating pool, and your programming is an emotion, the intensive negative emotional experience that you had in the past will dictate the woman that you'll find in the future. If your woman ever cheated on you in the past, you felt the intensive negative emotional experience, and that intensive negative emotional experience has led into programming to avoid woman, because it does not compartmentalize. Woman that you had in the past, your ex, within your subconscious mind, it will register as whole woman, all of woman. It will not compartmentalize, literally. So when you are avoiding woman in your past to able to avoid pain, because human nature wants to avoid pain and go for pleasure, now you avoid woman. Avoid woman because of this. Or for example, this is my type of example. kind of getting vulnerable saying this. I used to hear a lot of fights between my mom and my dad, right? And while they were fighting, I had this intensive negative emotional experience that it felt like my mom was being shouted at. And I had this feeling of, I want to save her. And this is actually a very, very good point. I want to save her, plus with the intensive negative emotional experience that has led me into a programming that I need to save other women from misery. And I had this savior schema. And I wanted to save every kind of woman that I met, and I wanted to attract women that are needing of saving. Which means that I cannot inherently attract any type of peaceful woman in my life. Because peaceful woman cannot be saved. I need to attract problematic women. Because they need my saving. If I think about this a lot, it gets me a little bit emotional. But my point is that anything that you have emotionally experienced intensively, negatively in the past will dictate what kind of patterns you will have in terms of attracting women within your dating life. So try to ask yourself, what kind of core memories, intensive negative emotional core memories I have in terms of woman? Try to think about it. And I'll teach you how to transmute it if you have one. Transmutation of your past. So, you had the past experience, intensive negative emotional experience of your past, and that becomes your core memory. Core memory will dictate how your dating life pattern will go. Therefore, what I recommend is to able to transmute this memory, you have to go back to your memory. It's going to be very intensive and it's going to be very hard, but I will recommend you to do this. First, get into the relaxive meditative state. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Eyes. For 20 to 30 minutes. 30 minutes. And you'll feel drowsy when you close your eyes and get into the relaxive meditative state. Just sit down and within complete silence, just sit down and relax. Now, recall your core memory. You have to go back to your core memory, and then, third, you have to transmute it. What do I mean by transmuting it? When you have, for example, your parents were fighting within your core memory, right? You can go back to your core memory and then you can transmute it so that you can reimagine that specific scene where they were fighting into them kissing and hugging each other. So that you feel the complete opposite emotion. So you have the negative emotional side over here. When you reimagine and transmute it, you're going to feel the complete opposite of positive emotion. And once you feel the intensive positive emotional experience by reimagining it, then you have successfully reimagined so that your core memory changes. And when your core memory changes, your subconscious mind changes. And when your subconscious mind changes, your dating pattern changes. And that is incredible. You have to close your eyes 20 to 30 minutes, recall your core memory, and transmute it so that you can actually feel the intensive positive emotions. I forgot to say about this. Once you transmute it, you have to make the scene 6 to 8 seconds, just like an Instagram reel, and repeat it over and over again. Make it very simple and make the scene a very positive emotional scene, and repeat it 6 to 8 seconds, just like our Instagram reel, over and over again until you feel that emotion. That's how you transmute it, and you can just wake up when you feel a little bit stressed. Now you've learned how you have been subconsciously attracting girls. You've learned about the masculine frame. You've learned about how to become an ideological leader, how to have a strong belief, give attention to proper people and have an identity, and such and so on. This is the core teaching that I teach to able to have a long-term relationship. So therefore, I want you really to apply the things that I have taught today to able to transmute your dating life into a better long-term relationship. Thank you very much.